5 teams have punched their ticket to the second round of the NHL playoffs, and we discuss what went wrong for the eliminated teams. McKinnon and McCarr are rolling, and Rantanen, which, they were.
Yeah.
With Nichushkin and Lehkonen on top of that. I don't see Winnipeg winning this game. They had to do that defensive game plan.
Series in general.
So, 3 NHL series are heading to a Game 6. So we discuss which teams had the best chance of erasing their 3-2 deficit.
Our rank the 3 teams that are down 3-2 and the ability to come back.
Alright, this is
And
obvious.
and this is where you could throw in your predictions for Game 6. And if there's a Game
This
7.
is very obvious if I'm power ranking the 3 teams. The Dallas Stars just won 3 straight games and now take a 3-2 series lead going back into Vegas for Game 6. They were down 0-2. They lost 2 games in their own barn and they pulled it back. And we knew Dallas had another gear to go to, and they definitely went to that in Games 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, no, the tough one was usually when it's 2-0, you wait till it happens. 2-0 at home, you usually wait till what the team that's returning home for 3 and 4 is going to do, right? AKA the opposite of what Dallas did. Everybody thought it would have been a sweep, which I would not blame people, right? But yeah, no, they came back. I mean, for some of the games, even the first 2 games, it looked like they played well. It's just like Logan Thompson goalied them a little bit. At the same time, their star players didn't go off either. They're young guys that kind of went off, with Wyatt Johnson especially.
He's killing it.
He's their standout player for the series so far. Jason Robertson, I know he got on the board today as well.
Game winner.
The games have been close, right? Every game, one game, obviously.
Yeah, all games were close. They were all played till the end. It was nothing like, nobody destroyed anybody.
Yeah.
Realistically, both goalies have performed well. Both teams have played well. It's just that we knew Dallas could take it to another level, and they've shown that they could, play with a little bit extra gear. But we also know Vegas could do the same thing. It's just a tight series. It's a heavyweight matchup. It's a counter punch is back and forth, and we'll see what Vegas has to answer for Game 6. But just to comment on the last 3 games here, how good does it feel that hopefully he's healthy, that Logan Thompson will be a Canadian Olympic goalie starter?
Well,
because that's how
no,
good
to be fair with that, people. So the Vezina finalists were announced. It's Sergei Bobrovsky, Thatcher Demko, Connor Hellebuck, right? Which we're gonna talk about the Jet series in a second. So funny to say his name because he's the front runner, right? People are saying instead of Sergei Bobrovsky, it should have been Jordan Binnington though this year. Like many people have said, like if you look at especially the advanced analytics, Jordan Binnington was number 1 in a lot of them. So
it just feels good that we have an answer at goalie potentially.
There's a discussion.
But Logan Thompson in Game 3 put on an absolute masterclass. Vegas had no business of being in that game, except for Logan Thompson.
So
he's denying breakaway after breakaway. He's denying 2-on-1s, and Dallas needed that game.
So my question:
the series could have been if Logan Thompson actually stole that game, which Wyatt Johnson got the overtime winner in. The series could be over right now. But then again, you gotta have a team playing in front of you, and that day it was probably Vegas's worst game I've seen in a playoff setting in a long time.
So you've been the guy that's been watching more hockey. I've been the guy that's watching more basketball. There's no secret. You guys could even tell by the way we discuss certain things here. But I saw Aiden Hill starting this game. Was there an injury? Because I don't know. Or were you surprised by that move? Is it because Logan Thompson faced so much stuff for these last, 5 games, especially the last 3 games, or 2 games, I guess, because Aiden Hill played Game 5, that it's like, okay, this is probably the rest game because you could trust Aiden Hill? Or is it just like, okay, they lost the last 2 games, maybe we just put Aiden Hill in?
So Cassidy's report was that, Thompson played well, but we're going with Aiden Hill because of his experience in these type of games. Game 5 was a must-win. Obviously, when it's a 2-2 series, Game 5 is very crucial to have. And it was just that, Aiden Hill's, I like Aiden Hill's experience. Thompson been incredible, but we're going to roll with Aiden Hill. So it was just a purely just a alternate decision. No injury, nothing influenced that. I was really surprised too. When I was watching the game, I didn't realize Aiden Hill was in net because I put it on like 5 minutes in the first. And I heard Aiden Hill's name and he made the save. I was like, wow, Aiden Hill's in net. Do I believe it made a difference? No. Do I believe it should have been Logan Thompson in net? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the momentum carrier, who knows? I'm not saying, because again,
I
was coming back from work, so I didn't watch the game. This is why I'm letting you lead with that.
But here's one thing that I could think of to validate this reasoning is that they just lost 2 straight games. They might, the best way to swing momentum in the series is to make a goalie change in the NHL playoffs. We've seen that a lot of times, so I guess Vegas is going that route. But I don't think Aiden Hill was the reason why they lost today. I don't think Logan Thompson was the reason why they lost in the games 3 and 4 either.
No, for sure. The goalies for these series, Jake Ottinger has stepped up in the last couple of games as well. But yeah, no, Vegas. They always the one issue they had in the regular season was give up leads in games, right? Especially late in the season. Obviously, I'm not saying they're giving up big leads, but they gave up the series, which that they took on the road 2-0, right? So they should have capitalized on home, at least split home at the very minimum, which is weird to say. But yeah, no, like I said, I didn't lose. I was definitely worried about Dallas because they lost the 2 at home, but I wasn't like overly concerned like it's over, right? Like there's some series you look at, you're like, yeah, it's over. Like with the Washington one, we knew it was over before it started, but I'm saying like once it was 2-0, even though they were going back to Washington, we knew it was over the way it was going. We'll talk about that series later as well. But yeah, no, so overall, Dallas, like I said, we had them in the finals for the reason. It's not their top guys fully leading it. It's Wyatt Johnson who's leading it.
Yeah, Wyatt Johnson's definitely leading it, but, people stepped up, right?
Yeah.
Robertson has stepped up, and hence Dadonov has been on a pretty good, even though he missed a 2-0 breakaway in Game 5, but he got a big goal in Game 4, where he probably the greatest sharp angle shot I've seen, where he banked it in off of Logan Thompson's mask. And Game 4, what a game it was. Even Game 5, because even Game 3, because it went to overtime technically.
Yeah.
Like it's just been such a fun series to watch. It's all 5 games have been tight. All 5 games made me like sit on my edge of my seat, even though I'm probably lying down half the time watching it.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense. But it's a heavyweight matchup. As a neutral fan, it's lived up to everything we wanted it to be. And so far, the series of the playoffs, no doubt about it. Even in the NBA playoffs, like if I were to pick a series over the course of both playoffs, I'm picking this Dallas-Vegas series.
Yeah, Philly Knicks have a shout.
Philly Knicks do have a shout, but yeah, it's just been incredible as a neutral fan watching this. But yeah, I think the reason why Jake Ottinger's been good too is, one, he came in on that hot streak to finish the regular season. Number 2, the last time Vegas and Dallas met in the playoffs was last year in the Western Conference Finals, right? By then, Jake Ottinger, we could tell he was clearly beaten up, right? Because he had a 60-game regular season plus obviously the postseason. This time, Jake Ottinger's fresh enough because he's facing Vegas in the first round, and so that's a good indicator there that why
The ton of
Jake
acquisition
Ottinger
helped too.
yeah,
sure.
like it's just 2 heavyweights going after
Yeah.
it, bro. It's like I can't even comment anything bad about Vegas, what they're doing. Obviously, there's so many little things that if you go dig deeper and go to analytic wise. Obviously, I think the 2-1 leading goal that I think it was 1-1 goal or whatever it is, that one of Dallas's first 2 goals was a turnover, and he's gonna do a good step and force a turnover in the neutral zone. Like obviously little things like that they should fix. Don't get me wrong, but overall I'm just like really impressed of how these games are going, and I'm just so into it, and
Yeah.
it's just been incredible.
All right. Before we go on to the next series, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button as well. We dropped our NBA reaction of the series, so up to
Game 6,
up
Game
to the
5,
Tuesday
5.
games. Up to the Tuesday games.
So some Game 5, some Game 4s,
Yeah.
essentially.
Sorry, up to the Monday games. Sorry.
Monday
Up
games.
to the Monday games. So make sure you guys check that out. We'll probably react to one series very quickly in this one, but this one will be fully NHL. Like we said before on the playoffs videos, we're going to be trying doing one NHL heavy, one NBA heavy till it kind of shortens down. So make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. That being said, we talked about how we love, from an unbiased perspective, from a neutral perspective, we want this to go 7. Now let's talk about a team that we're not neutral with, we have ties with. Obviously, we don't have the setup here, but you could tell by the Elias Pettersson and the Canucks flag, and on the other setup with Henrik Sedin before we switched.
Please don't go 7.
Vancouver Canucks and the Nashville Predators are also 3-2 series. Difference with this one is Vancouver was up 3-1, stole Game 4, right? Highway robbery of Game 4. Should have won Game 5, but they choked it a little late. Also, Soros kind of stepped up this game, right? So there's only 3 series that are going on right now. All of them are 3-2. We'll talk about the other 3-2 one in a second here. But yeah, no, from the Canucks side of things, I'll start off with this one. from not even from. I'll talk about a little bit from a fan perspective.
But just quick recap of game 3 and 4, just because.
Game 3 and 4. Game 3, Canucks won that game because of special teams and Casey DeSmith.
Yeah, then game 4.
That's the TLDR. That's like the quick thing.
Game 4 was Arthur Seelovs, Brock Besser, Elias Lindholm,
JT Miller.
and JT Miller.
So that game essentially.
And we only 4 minutes of hockey needed.
Okay, so the other big story with that is you mentioned Arthur Seelovs and I mentioned Casey DeSmith. As people know, Thatcher Demko won game 1, missed, then got injured. Casey DeSmith lost game 2, but won game 3, then got injured. And Arthur Seelovs came in, was part of that goalie that made the comeback in game 4, and then was the losing end, not his fault, but was on the losing end of game 5. So all 3 wins came by all 3 different goalies, which begs the question, do we just put Tuolapilo in and just call it a game? Obviously not. We'll talk about the future in a second.
But yeah, so that's a quick series recap. Now let's hear your thoughts.
So thoughts of the series so far, definitely on the boring end. If you're watching it from
a neutral perspective, yeah.
Obviously, as Canucks fans, when we're in it, we're like kind of frustrated watching it. It's definitely like the Canucks have the lowest shots in like NHL history through the first 4 or 5 games in the opening round. I think out of all the playoff teams that played, they're dead last in the average shots per game. I can't find the actual stat right now. There's that. Nashville has had better shots, don't get me wrong, especially on their homestand.
But it's nothing crazy.
Yeah, the Canucks' issue is they can't get shots on net. That's the big thing. But on the flip side, the power play for both teams have been horrendous. They're both only 2 for whatever they were at. And the Canucks only got them in that game 3, which was a special teams win. And then, otherwise it's a very defensive hockey game. It kind of
series, not even game.
Sorry, series. But from actual perspective, like the Canucks side of things, offensively is where we're lacking. Only guy that has produced for us is Brock Besser, Elias Lindholm, and JT Miller, in my opinion. Quinn Hughes, who's playing hurt. The Predators are sticking to their game plan, and they're playing over aggressive, and they have that game plan to block everything, force shots wide, slap passes, and all that stuff, right? The Canucks got to figure a way around that. It's just like when Hughes obviously still playing slightly hurt. Another Norris finalist, which was announced, him, Cale Makar, and the Nashville guy, Roman Josi. It's just they need to figure a way to get Elias Pettersson going. He looked better last game, but this is where, now here comes the analyst side of things. They may need to go to the lotto line to generate some offense, because I'm fine with the Lindholm line, even though they struggled after game 1 and the overtime.
But if you think about it, like they still produced, right? Like out of like they stole game 1 for us.
Yeah.
Elias Lindholm and Connor Garland still making incredible passes.
That's what I'm saying. So outside of game 1 and that overtime
game 4 and game 5, I thought they were pretty.
Yeah, but again, here's the thing. Even if you're looking at the Besser line, it's Besser and Miller mainly. It wasn't Suter.
That
is
true.
Suter missed way too many chances. And then when Elias Pettersson finally kind of got going in game 5, like it was probably his best game of the series, he obviously should have maybe scored on that 2-on-1. Fair. He's playing injured. There's no debate about it. You could tell. And there's reports that he is playing injured. But here's the thing with game 5, you had 20 shots, again, low end, but 13 of them were high danger chances. Some of them just went to Ilya Mikheyev, and he has 1 goal in his last 50 games.
Yeah, so here's the thing. You comment on the lotto line quickly. I remember in game 4 where was like 5 minutes left. We're like, yo, we might need to get the lotto line going before, we did the miraculous comeback. So right now, yeah, I do agree with you. It has to be lotto line. It has to be
the Lindholm line. Just pretty much switch Suter and Pettersson. Suter
essentially, right? And here's my comments on Elias Pettersson. Yes, he was absolutely atrocious in game 4, atrocious in game 2. Game 3 was okay. Game 1 he was okay. Game 5 is definitely his best game of the series. And I'm telling you this right now, Elias Pettersson looked dangerous in game 5. Right, he looked like he was doing something. He created turnovers.
Defensively, was good too.
Defensively, the turnover in the Predator zone in the first period where he forced a hit and Mikheyev got a shot off. Issue was it went to Mikheyev.
Yeah,
but yeah, no. PD had 7 shots. He could have definitely scored one. I remember his sniper that went off Soros' mask. If that was like 5 inches not even 5 inches, 5 centimeters to the right, or it would have been a goal.
Inch or 2 to the right.
Right, inch or 2 to the right. So I'm just saying this much. If Elias Pettersson gets like 6 or 7 shots off in game 7, he will score.
7?
In game 6. If he gets 6 or 7 shots off in game 6, he will score. He showed me, and he showed life. He showed something that, like, this is something to build off of,
Yeah.
right? And Game 5 was a toss-up, right? At the end of the day, like, were Canucks the better? Can you say Canucks were clearly the better team?
First period, yes. Second period, no.
No.
Third period, toss up.
Yeah, right. And can you say Nashville was clearly the better team? Better team? No, it was a 50-50. It was a coin flip, right? And it sucks. I guess it was a little bit of a hockey gods are repaying Nashville
Yeah,
of what
I was
happened
about to say that.
in Game 4. But I was happy with Game 5 performance in the sense of, we got shots, we got chances, right? Yes, I know it was only 20 shots, but if you're telling me you got 13 high danger chances, that just tells me either you got Soros or you just can't hit the net, and both things happen.
He didn't really. I wouldn't say they got Soros like goal lead, right?
Because he only took 20 shots.
Yeah, but
he kind of did because he made some incredible saves.
He made some good saves. The saves he needed to make. That goal he allowed was kind of bad though. At the same time, that's where the height and then I guess he cheated a little bit on it.
He cheated.
The problem is with the Canucks, especially in the last two home games, your leading scorer cannot be Nikita Zadorov.
And
the only goal scorer.
And then bounce off that. Then another issue is you can't be 1-2 in your home at a playoff series.
And your power play can't be that horrendous.
Yeah, that power play was that worst. That was probably the worst power play performance.
So
I've seen.
that's the Canucks side of things. Like I said, my simple solution is maybe not the whole game. Maybe you start off normal, but I think you should start off lotto line and see how that works. And we saw when they rejoined in the middle of the year, they kind of went nuts for like 10 straight games almost before it kind of like got stagnant a bit. And you roll those two lines for the offense. Obviously, rotate the other. Like the fourth line's gonna bring energy, right? Podkolzin got sent back down to Abbotsford, which is fair. I mean, there's no point for him to sit up here and do nothing, go help the Abbotsford Canucks. So he'll still get called up if need be. But yeah, so overall, that's their side of things. The Predators, like I said earlier, just to elaborate a little bit more, like that last game, you kind of got Ryan O'Reilly, Forsberg a little bit going. The thing with them is like, they're following the game plan to a T, but the problem here is with the Canucks and the Predators, the Canucks have the talent, which is what we said in our preview. The Predators do not have the talent the Canucks have, which is why in Game 4, when it mattered most, 3 of their like top 4 or 5 guys, right? If that Demko being one of them is out, Patterson, we know how he struggled, but you got Quinn Hughes, Brock Besser, JT Miller all stepped up, right? And then in overtime, Garland and Lindholm stepped up. But at the moment where they needed to tie the game on 6-on-5 twice, and now it helps that Sisson's, I'm not calling that a Patrick Stefan, because I think this one's way harder than a Patrick Stefan.
You're a mini Patrick Stefan.
But that helps when it hits the post, and the hockey gods were against them, and which is why we said, you know what, they probably repaid them in Game 5. But those guys stepped up, and that's the kind of factor, and hopefully that's what's going to determine. If the Canucks win, for the Canucks to win the series, hopefully even in 6, they won the 2 games, and the Predators, you could argue they could have lost both of those games easily.
Oh, obviously. But here's the thing. With the Nashville side, it's clearly that they have one line going with that O'Reilly's, Nyquist, and Forsberg line. They have Yossi going. Yossi still, goated. And obviously, Zucker looks pretty dangerous as well. He's got some good shots off. And the thing is this, right? They're missing piece with Soros. And Soros, had a Soros performance in Game 5. He didn't have those performances in Game 1 to 4. And then just another point to piggyback off your Canucks turning up for Game 6, the Canucks player turning up. I'm telling you this right now. I think at least 8 times out of 10, the Canucks will win Game 5. This was just one of those 2 times that, I was fairly confident in the Canucks' performance, right? Obviously, but there's one major key that really kind of ruined it. Discipline, right? Miller took a shit penalty in the first period. Dakota Joshua, the power play they scored on, it was a boarding penalty. And
we have to talk about the other thing too.
Yeah, and then obviously that led to the goalie interference goal, which I personally believe Rick Tocchet should have challenged.
So let's talk about that very quickly because that is a big topic. I listened to different perspectives. They said when you look at it, you don't know which way the NHL is going to swing it. So Tocchet after the game said it was 50-50, so he didn't want to take the risk. Obviously, it doesn't seem like the guy who takes risks. Yeah. Game 1 was the same thing as well, except they came back and won that game. I would have challenged it because I thought the penalty kill was still rolling, right? Otherwise, that was just like one bad zone entry they allowed. I feel like that's the case. I think after this Dorov goal, they just stopped moving properly. But no, the goalie interference thing, yes, I would have challenged it because we saw what happened in Florida. Now, again, we don't know what type of NHL we're going to get. Rick Tocchet always says he trusts the video guys upstairs. And if they say 100%, then he will do it. If they're saying 50-50, your call, or 50-50, we're not 100% sure, he won't do it. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, that could have been the game changer. It could have been still 1-0. It killed off the penalty.
Yeah, so here's
And, yeah.
here's just my take on the play itself. So Silos made the save. The puck was behind him, and no stick led the puck going to the net. Right, it was pushed through Silos. They pushed Silos, who pushed the puck into the net.
Yeah.
Silos didn't deliberately push the puck in the net. Silos got pushed essentially. So I believe the Tampa Bay one was much more 50-50 than this one. I was fairly more confident in this one. But yeah, at the end of the day, talk is going to bleed the video, guys. And that does not mean that, like, they still got to get the job done, especially when you have a 1-0 lead in the third period. And just one last thing to piggyback off Nashville again. They are the most dangerous is when they're on the rush. And that's when, one, they're either have a clean zone breakout from their own end, right? That's when they're most dangerous. Two is when they force a turnover in either in the neutral zone or in their defensive end, where it leads to a 3-on-2, 2-on-1, because that's when Nashville's most dangerous. For example, power play 1, where we couldn't get into the zone if our lives depended on it.
Yeah.
And they forced a turnover at the blue line, leading to a 2-on-1.
They copied us.
Yeah, leading to a 2-on-1. I think Nyquist hit the post, and it could have been easily 1-0 off of that point. But yeah, it's a tight series. It's gonna be another tight game. It's gonna be a defensive game for both teams. Both teams are performing exceptionally well on defensive side. Offensively, they both need to step it up. But we'll see what happens. If Pettersson does show up, this game will go to the Vancouver Canucks. As simple as that. Because at their best, Canucks are the better team.
Not just Pettersson, the other guys also.
If we get the Vancouver Canucks we've seen in the regular season, more specifically in the first half, they are a much better team than what Nashville did in the second half of the season.
Okay, let's talk about the other 3-2 series that happened as well before we go back to the other Western Conference, Eastern Conference teams of the series that have ended. It's the Boston Bruins and Toronto Maple Leafs. So also, same story with the Canucks. They were up 3-1. Now it's 3-2. Boston was up 3-1.
Yeah.
Now it's 3-2. The stories of this have been in what's happening with the Toronto side of things. First is William Nylander. Now it's kind of Austin Matthews. We still have a ghost in Mitch Marner, and then whatever's being said on the side, on the benches. But like I said, Boston destroyed Game 1. Game 4, even though it was 3-1, everybody hated the effort from Toronto. Toronto won the close games in overtime in Game 5 and Game 2.
So Game 4 was the another like a blowout type of thing.
It was 3-1, but like
it felt like a blowout. It was 3-0 at one point. Game 3 was a close one, but that's when Marchand took over in the Game 5, obviously overtime win. To start off on Toronto's side, I don't think it's fully Ilya Samsonov's fault, but Joseph Woll is definitely the answer in that for them. That is for sure, and he performed incredibly well in Game 5. That's just point number 1. Point number 2 is, health, right? Nylander was hurt or out sick, I believe, and now Matthews is hurt. We don't know.
Nylander had migraines from a potential hit at the last game of the season or one of the last few games of the season.
And then
Matthews is sick.
Matthews is sick, so we don't know his status for Game 6. I believe he will play, just because you kind of have to, right? He just, I think we'll force it. And so that's number 1. Number 2, right? The ghost of Mitch Marner. Not great. Not another great playoff performance from him. Out of the 4 main ones, I believe John Tavares has looked the most dangerous. I know he might not have the points to show for it, but I feel like he's been the one that's really attacking the net. But overall, this is not a good look on the Leafs so far. And what was supposed to be, a building block off of last year's finally winning a first playoff series and whoever now, I don't know how long now, and then obviously now trying to beat the Boston Bruins, their dragon, and that was the last time they beat them was in 1959, I believe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so just not a good look. It's not even star power not showing up. It was like more of an effort issue. Obviously, Game 1, Game 4, but we'll see what happens. Marchand and has been cooking as well.
Let me go with Toronto very quickly. I was very, very ready to talk about and have an own separate video on this about what's going to happen in Toronto. This guy's gone, that guy's gone. And that could still happen, right? That could still happen. But, this guy's got to get traded. Obviously, they gave us a 3-2. So there's a potential 3-1. And guess what? They're playing a team in Boston who might give it up because they gave it up last year, and last year they're a historically great team. And the thing with Toronto is, yes, they have not shown up in the playoffs, but it's so hard to go against the talent. And I know history has shown a lot of these guys don't show up in the playoffs, right?
But the series are still close. Like,
Yeah.
They never really got 4-1.
Yeah, that's the thing. So you still gotta believe the talent at the end of the day.
And
they proved comebacks last year against Tampa.
They are a comeback team because of that offense, right?
Yeah.
They're never really out of games. Obviously, shout out goes to Matthew Nyes and Joseph Wall for being the heroes in Game 5. I feel like a good piece of a tactical advantage that Toronto could have is keeping Ryan Reeves away from the hockey rink at all times.
You didn't play?
No, he did play, but like he's pretty dreadful.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's been giving over pucks. He's just too focused on chasing a guy instead of playing hockey, which he kind of got to do both, like how Brad Marchand has been
He
doing.
only played 7 minutes in that overtime game.
Yeah, and then obviously you need to defend home ice, right? You can't win if you go 0-3 on your home barn, right?
Yeah.
In your own barn, right? You can't.
Look at you using the hockey term.
Yeah, I've been converted, but yeah. So like you can't lose. You lost Game 3 and Game 4. It's Game 6 a must win. If you lose Game 6, obviously you're out. But if you're not defending your home ice, you're gonna be out anyways, right? Especially if you go 0-3, right? You can still survive if you go 1-2, because obviously you'll still be in it. You go force a Game 7 if you go 1-2. But yeah, other than that, let's move on to the Boston side.
Boston side for me, I'll just start off with this one.
Yeah.
Because I know you're gonna have more of the notes on this because again, Eastern time games are not
Good for you.
Good for me. But the one name I'm just gonna throw it out there, Brad Marchand, right? The first couple of games, he was just a pest. He didn't maybe have not provided the production as much. The last like 3 or 4 games or whatever,
3.
Was a pest as well. But he provided the production, got the game-winning goals or set up goals and all that stuff. So for me, the only takeaway I really had from this was like Brad Marchand and Jeremy Swayman have been killing it, right? They obviously went away from the Linus Ullmark alternate. Now, I don't know if they will go back to Linus Ullmark since Swayman lost a game, but I don't blame Swayman, obviously.
Swayman
but
has, yeah.
I'll let you take the rest of it.
Swayman has definitely, tried to ruin that tactic. He has a 9.52, I think, save percentage.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's shown that he's the guy. So they're definitely still gonna stick with Swayman for Game 6. That's there's no doubt in my mind for that. Other things, Boston at the end of the day, they have been in control. They have been dominant. It's still their series to lose, obviously. The thing is it going to be deja vu? Can history repeat itself? Obviously, of what happened last year, they have lost. They've known to struggle in closeout games, especially in the especially in the last few years in playoffs.
Extremely, and they did that last year to a way of inferior team as well.
Yeah, and again, they've been in control. It's their series to lose. I don't see really if both teams perform at their best in Game 6, Boston will win the game. I'm just gonna say that much.
Okay, question for you very quickly before we close this out and overall the 3-2 teams out. Is Linus Ullmark or Jeremy Swayman, but most likely Linus Ullmark getting traded next year, or will they be a duo? Because they'll be spending, obviously cap's gonna go up, but then between 2 goalies, that's still a lot of money on the cap.
I mean, it's been working, so
like a team like the Devils, Ottawa, Colorado.
It's gonna take a nice package.
Yeah.
I'll say that much, right? Because I think if they have that option to keep him, they will keep him. That goalie tandem, right?
Yeah, it depends on the contract. This is on the top of my head. I haven't checked what the contract.
Yeah, no, this obviously is rough, but at the end of the day, right? If Swayman performs bad next game, Ullmark could come in and do a job. And Ullmark in game
7.
and Ullmark in Game 2 was pretty.
Terrible.
He had a 900 save percentage that game, and it wasn't terrible. It was a 3-2 game, I believe.
Yeah.
Right, it wasn't really his fault either. So, yeah, just as Swayman is the one who Swayman is the one who started and just looked good and has the one who won the games.
Yeah.
So obviously the advantage goes to him. But I will not be surprised if we see Linus Ullmark in Game 2 of next series if they go through.
All right.
And go back to that little tactic if they want to.
Power rank the 3 teams that are down 3-2 in the ability to come back.
All right, this is
And
obvious.
and this is where you could throw in your predictions for Game 6. And if there's
This is very obvious. If I'm power ranking the 3 teams, Vegas has to be number 1. If I'm power ranking the teams, it'd be Vegas, Toronto, and Nashville. But if you're looking at
I'm different.
If you're looking at the opponent size and then actual playoff series matchup, Boston feels like they have been in more control and more dominant than Vancouver Canucks have been. So for that reason, I'm gonna go with the Vegas having the best chance, obviously, just because they're that good, and then Nashville having the second best chance because they know credit to them because they have slowed down the offense heavily, and obviously Toronto. Well, we just don't know about their health. We don't know if Nylander's 100%. We don't know Matthews might not be 100% next game, and Ghost of Mitch Marner still lives on. So, yeah, so I'll go Toronto at number 3 for that reason.
For me, I flipped your first two. I have Nashville 1. And I'm not saying it from a biased side either. I'm just saying because the Canucks haven't looked great themselves, right? Whereas Dallas actually looks great.
But Vegas has looked
great
Vegas is
way
too.
Better than Nashville, I get that.
No, but Vegas has looked great. It's like a heavyweight matchup. It's
and I get that. But at the same time, this is, I don't know, I don't want to say lightweight matchup, but it's like...
this is a lightweight matchup.
I guess, if that's the analogy. But the reason why I'm saying that is also, I agree with you, but on the flip side, I look at that matchup, and it's like, the Canucks could have easily been down 3-2 themselves, right? And I won't be surprised if they lose Game 6. Obviously, as Canucks fans, we're hoping not, right? It's easy to say. For me, it shouldn't be easy to say Nashville, but it should be easy to say not Nashville because of the talent. The problem is, how is the talent going to show up? Because again, at home, the 2 games especially, the Canucks only got goals from Zadorov. And Game 4, it was a miraculous comeback.
4 minutes of hockey.
And then Game 3, it was special teams and DeSmith. By the way, we don't even know what the goalie status is for Game 6. But yeah, so for that reason, I'm going Nashville 1.
Goalie's not an issue, by the way.
I don't know. I'm just saying in general. Because maybe from what I hear, and I'm listening to goalie, the confidence levels, like, if Steele's in the net, you're kind of like, okay, we a little bit more pressure. Like, we don't want to give up too many shots on him, as well as he did, right? The mindset. Like, with Demko, he could play a little bit more freely. I'm not saying
obviously,
like that way. That's what I'm saying.
Same conversation with DeSmith.
Yeah, but okay. So on the flip side, that's why I'm going with Nashville number 1. I don't know how heavy you disagree with me, but
I could see it. I'll say that much.
Vegas number 2, and I'm like I said, you're valuing the Vegas eliteness. I'm valuing the Dallas also is more elite. I'm just
valuing that this has just been a back and forth series. It's been
which is fair.
It's been punch counter punch,
which is fair.
And now it's Vegas' turn to
get a home win now.
And get a home win because.
But and Toronto is 3 because again, history shows that they can't be bought.
And also in the sense of like, I really do believe that this Vegas Dallas, even from the beginning,
it should be a 7.
It should be a 7-gamer.
Based on my logic, I have Canucks in 6, so I'm kind of like falling into that.
if you predict Canucks in 6, they have to lose twice. They lost twice. I said the same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see what happens. 2011, they won in Bridgestone Arena to close it out in Game 6. Let's see if history could repeat itself for there.
Let's go back to the Western Conference.
Western Conference, and 2 teams are already through. Let's start off with a team that just got finished off right now, that we just ended. The Edmonton Oilers have finished off the LA Kings in 5 games. And 3 years in a row, the LA Kings have suffered first-round losses to the same team. And each year it got worse and worse.
So I said 4-1 for this. I was right. I also said it was going to be a tough 5 games. Only 2 of them kind of 2 or 3 of them kind of proved out to be. After Game 1, I'm like, yeah, I feel like this is over. And then Game 2 happens, right? And I'm like, okay, well, Edmonton might be in trouble. But then I'm going to skip Game 3 because obviously it was a beatdown. I want to go to Game 4, where LA Kings got goalied by Stuart Skinner. That's where everybody was surprised about. I was surprised about that. Edmonton is, question marks with Skinner, for sure. Like, I'm not, but he's better than, he's shown that he could play in the playoffs. But on the flip side, that the only goal they scored was on the power play. LA outshot them because Edmonton pulled off a Canucks and only had 13 shots and won the game 1-0. And it was just that one power play goal. So it shows that Edmonton can play that defensive style of hockey. Now, maybe that was just a one-off for them and they got lucky and the goalie helped. Goalie was the only reason.
Goalie was the main reason.
But I would say that defensively they probably played well as well because it was one.
I saw Skinner made some incredible saves.
Yeah. So that's what threw me off a little bit. But then Game 5, it just seemed like they dominated. It was 4-3, but it was just like late goals.
They're dangerous. They're looking good.
Yeah.
Right, you cannot put them on the power play at all. You cannot take penalties against this team.
Yeah.
Right, because they have McDavid, they have Draisaitl, they have Hyman, who's been plotting in goals like crazy, especially in the first 2 games, and now you have Bouchard, who has a heavy slapper from the point. So this power play is dangerous, and it could score on many different ways. It could score through a nice little passing play. It could just score through just a standard, get pucks on net and try to tip it. They could just do it whatever way they can and whatever they want to. Stuart Skinner has proven that, he could steal a game, right?
Yeah.
Is it going to be consistent? Nope. But at the end of the day, they absolutely dominated the LA Kings in this series. There was no chance that the LA Kings were going to pull off a 3-1 comeback in this.
Yeah, there was no chance.
They were a worse team than last year. Like I said, this was out of the last 3 years, this was the most clear year that Edmonton was going to beat LA for me.
Once again, their big acquisition did not show up. Now, on the flip side, the other team they made the trade with also didn't show up. But these guys had more expectations than Winnipeg because of the PLD trade. And I want to look at his numbers very quickly here while I pull it up. But yeah, like the main thing is their stars. I'm looking at it. He had each game, he had 1 goal in the first game, April 22nd. Yeah, so the first game, that's it. 0 assists. Overall was a 0 plus minus. His game times were 16 minutes, 13 minutes, 14 minutes, 15 minutes, and 15 minutes. You paid him that money. You gave up 3 key pieces. Usually those type of guys average 20 or higher.
Yeah, so
in
like
the playoffs,
looking at the time on ice, that's like a third line time on ice, like a second line, third line time on ice.
Yeah.
Type of guy, but like you got that, you paid such a premium just to get him. You want him to be close to 20 minutes every night, right? Just because he's supposed to be that impact player for you. And we're not saying it's over for Dubois at all, but we're just saying that this is not a good year 1. That is for sure.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to step it up in year 2. But overall, like I said, LA was just a much worse team than they were years past. And Edmonton, on the flip side, were getting better and better. LA, in my opinion, were getting worse and worse. They lost 4-3 year 1 with Quick in net, 4-2 with Corpusalo. This year, they had to turn to David Reddick. Obviously, they lost the pieces in Velarde and Iafallo to get Dubois. So just overall, the team just, to me personally, felt worse. I was very surprised they went on that run in the beginning of the year. But yeah, it just ended the same way.
Question to you is, how much is the system for Dubois, because they did the 1-3-1 because they had no goalie? So let's just say they go out and get a goalie. Markstrom, Soros could be available or the young guy in Nashville. I mentioned Allmark, right? If they get a goalie, can this change and maybe help PLD in next year? And maybe they could play a different style, depending on if they keep this coach or not, or however it works.
Yeah, in the sense of like PLD is a more offensive player.
Yeah.
So it will definitely help. But yeah, it's just time for these young guys to step up, right? Because LA has gotten these young guys in Turcotte and Byfield. I know Byfield was
Turcotte's gonna probably get traded
decent
in a goalie trade.
But like Kopitar, like how
you can't keep relying on it. He had another great year.
Yeah, like
his age, him
Kopitar and Doughty, right? Like
yeah.
Their years are numbered.
Now keep him.
Right,
Phil Deneau also had a great year for the whatever he has played.
But at the end of the day, like the guys are Kopitar and Doughty. When you're looking at the LA roster,
but yeah.
And Kempe, yeah. But when you're really looking at the roster, who's going to replace the Kopitar as a young guy? I don't see anyone right now. Nobody has shown me anything that they could do it. Byfield's probably the closest one, in my opinion.
And again, Deneau is like...
Deneau is more of a
defensive guy.
A defensive guy.
Right? So he had only had 47 points, so he's not going to do it. Victor Arvidsson's not even a center.
And then Doughty,
Kevin Fiala's there. I didn't even hear his name once, really.
Yeah, Doughty is... Brant Clark is supposed to be the replacement, but if he was supposed to be the replacement, he would have broken into the NHL by now.
Yeah.
So it's not looking good on that sense either. I'm not saying he's going to be a bad defenseman. He could be a great defenseman. But the leaders' years are numbered, right? We already saw Quick left, right, a couple of years ago, and Quick somehow had an incredible year 2 years ago as a starting goalie. But these guys are just getting older and older, and I don't know who's going to replace them to be the guys.
Yeah.
That's my concern. So we might not be far away.
Well, you got Dubois for that reason.
Yeah, no, but we might not be far away, like in a year or two, where LA is missing the playoffs again.
Yeah.
Just because of that reason.
So, last thing to close it out, with Edmonton, they have to be a conference final lock. Right?
Oh, yeah,
they're already out of this. They're going to play one of Canucks or Nashville.
That should
be the Canucks. Like, listen,
they are the favorite.
I think, obviously, they were looking for vengeance against, if it's the Canucks, they're looking for vengeance against the Canucks. And we'll see how that goes. I feel like we match up a little bit better. In the sense that not just because of the regular season, it's just like
we could go toe to toe with them.
We kind of can. I think it will open up more off. Again, Game 4 could have been a one-off, or it could be Edmonton could do what they did in Game 4, but Canucks could open up the game with their top guys as well. But that's an if. We'll talk about that later. But for me, there should be a conference final lock.
Yeah, it doesn't
And
matter
we'll
if
see how it
Predators
goes.
or Canucks. They should be making the conference
And let's talk
finals.
about a team that they could potentially play in the conference finals, which is the Colorado Avalanche.
So the Colorado Avalanche are facing the Vezina frontrunner in Connor Hellebuck, the team that allowed the fewest goals in the NHL, I believe, and with 199 goals. They also won the Williams Jennings Trophy, and they decided to allow at least a minimum of 5 goals in every single game they played.
Now, funny enough, they won Game 1, 7-6. So which is where, okay, so Game 1 happened, we reacted to it, we're like, okay, everybody was talking about Georgiev. And they automatically assumed Hellebuck would be fine, which is fair, right? Fair assessment. But that did not happen.
Did
The
not
complete
happen.
opposite happened. And Colorado just showed, like, okay, you know what? Those moves they made were a big factor. And they just had the star power, right? So ultimately, this is what my thoughts on Winnipeg. Yes, all very disappointed. There's a reason why we put them in our underdog list of teams to win because of that defense. Right, we thought Hellebuck would be better. We understood Hellebuck did not have a great series last year, but we thought he would just learn from it. They played very well defensively, and once again in the post game presser, there's like blame after I forget which game was like, oh, the game plan isn't working, and then the coach is saying that, well, you guys are not disciplined, which is fair. If they're not disciplined, this is one of the teams, like you said about Edmonton, you cannot be giving power play opportunities to. You have arguably the Hart runner up or Hart winner. You have a Norris finalist. You have still Mikko Rantanen in there. You added guys like Casey Middlestat. I don't know who's in that first power play, but that's what I'm saying.
Bro,
So
you're missing the biggest factor here. The two biggest factor.
Yeah.
Arturi Lehkonen and Valeri Nichushkin.
Yeah.
Nichushkin plotted 7 goals in that series.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Arturi Lehkonen plotted 5 goals.
Yeah. So my point is
Like-
I'm just naming the star guys.
You didn't even start. Like, those guys stepped up
So here's the thing.
and stepped up.
And obviously, TSN Bar Down, Jesse Pollock is a known Jets fan. I listened to him a little bit on one of the recent Bar Down episodes, but like even these are my thoughts in general too. You have Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor as your top 2 guys, and then Tyler Toffoli disappointed in this playoffs,
Same with Monahan.
right? Yeah, and he was a no-show. At least ISN don't show it up for those people try to compare the trades, right? And the Canucks thing, there's a reason why they were going after Toffoli on all them for the wingers. I forgot to mention that earlier, but going back to this. Scheifele and Connor and Morrissey, let's just say, are their top 3 guys on the top of my head, not including Hellebuck. Stacked up against Mikko Rantanen, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, right? That's a clear talent difference. Put them to the side. You got Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and let's just say Evan Bouchard or whoever you want to put on the defensive side of things, right? Let's put them to the side. Dallas Stars, you can name anyone right now at this point.
Wyatt
Right.
Johnson's on the list right now.
I'm putting the Canucks in there as well because you would take JT Miller, hopefully Elias Pettersson better, and you got Quinn Hughes, right? And if Artur Demko was healthy, you got a head-to-head goalie matchup.
And then a
You're supposed
Besser
to-
as well, right?
Right, and Besser.
You can't.
So the problem is, how much is it? They just like listen. When we did our NBA one, and we were talking about how Phoenix got out, and we were talking about the super team era, not Big 3 specifically, but the super team era is essentially done. Right, every team is talented, but you still. And then I listed all those teams. But then the other thing in common was I listed at least a superstar or a very high-end caliber all-star that has won them the championship. That was a factor, right? From Jokic to Curry to LeBron to Giannis, so on and so forth, right? All the way down to however, except for the 04 Pistons, Kobe, for example, all these guys. Is that they're 2 different sports, but you kind of need that in hockey because last year, Jack Eichel, Mark Stone.
We'll just name the whole roster.
That one's more roster-wise, but you still had a really elite.
I know,
guy
but
in
like,
Jack
I'm
Eichel.
just saying the whole roster was almost like superstars.
Now, okay, people have their takes on Vegas. The year before that, the Colorado team. The year before that, the Tampa team.
Tampa.
Washington. St. Louis, sure, fine. But I still
But
think
Ryan O'Reilly performed like a
Yeah,
superstar in that playoffs.
Exactly. That like how you are what you argue with Jamal
And then
Murray
same
about
thing with
playoff
Binnington.
performers, right?
Yeah, Ryan O'Reilly performed in that playoffs.
Yeah, it's so on and so forth. Like before that, Crosby.
And Crosby.
You got all that. You got Kane and Tays. You got when the Kings were good with Kopitar and Quick and all these guys, right? So how much is that in your opinion? Like
Obviously, that was my biggest concern. Like I told you right now, like
yeah.
you know, if McKinnon and Makar are rolling and Rantanen, which they were,
Yeah.
with the Chuskin and Lehkonen on top of that, right? I don't see Winnipeg winning this game. They had to do that defensive
Or
game plan,
series in general.
right? Like if you were telling me that every game was gonna be like the game one,
No chance.
there's no chance the Winnipeg Jets are winning this game.
Like, you would think Winnipeg would get more better defensively, if anything.
Yeah,
as
no,
well.
like they got lucky that Georgiev shot the bed in the first game.
Yeah.
But out of all the people, Georgiev was on the stepped up. But we can't fully blame Hellebuck because I've seen some of the goals Hellebuck allowed. There's no goalie saving some of those chances.
I agree with that 100%.
It's a whole
The only
collective.
reason why Hellebuck gets a little blame is because he, at the end of the day, it's gonna be awkward when he picks up the Vezina, but he's the Vezina winner.
I know,
And
he deserves blame.
Like
yeah.
how Stuart Skinner stole him a game.
He didn't do that.
You
Yeah.
and Colin Hellebuck needed at least. Not every game is on him, but like at least 1 or 2 games he should have tried to steal. There's no way that goalie should be that caliber giving up 5 goals a game.
Every game, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a full blown, just a defensive game plan, terrible. Defensive execution, terrible. The thing that you're known for, you couldn't really do on. You couldn't execute on. And Hellebuck was supposed to be your best player. He was far from that. I would argue Adam Lowry was your best player. And
he's your third line.
He's your third line center, who's your captain. But yeah, no, Shifley didn't turn up. Kyle Connor didn't turn up. They definitely did lack the talent. But we were just so confident in their defense and their goaltending that maybe they could steal this series.
They still had somewhat depth, right?
They
They
have a
already
good depth,
performed
yeah.
decently well, right?
Like when you add Monahan and freaking Toffoli, you're like, okay, they could potentially do
Especially
something.
Toffoli.
And especially this shows that regular season means jack shit, because in the regular season,
Look at the Canucks right now, for example.
no, but I'm talking about like when you look at the matchup.
And Boston last year.
When you look at the matchup,
Yeah.
Winnipeg destroyed Colorado in every
Yeah,
regular season
100%,
matchup.
right?
That's why
I
it
think
means jack
everybody
shit.
was leaning on that because those games happened late.
And like Georgiev had a 75 save percentage in those games and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously game one did not look good. Everyone expected, Georgiev the one is to be question mark, but the question mark was actually on Calder and Hellebuck.
How lucky did Colorado get that their backup goalie got sick, so Georgiev had to stay in net?
Like it's not like
Because I think they were literally gonna switch the goalie.
they were gonna, but at the end of the day, Georgiev did bounce back. I think he got his save percentage up to like 8.95, which is still not great.
No,
But I feel like a lot of it's,
it helps
because of
that
the
they
game
have a
one.
good defense as well.
A lot of it's because of game one.
And
I
then
feel
your
like too.
defense stepped up as well.
But at the end of the day, Georgiev did a job. He outperformed the other goalie,
Yeah,
and he wasn't supposed to do that. He was just supposed to keep him afloat.
but essentially what Darcy Kemper did.
Yeah, just keep him afloat. But he outperformed.
Darcy Kemper when he was in Colorado, to be exact.
Yeah, and he outperformed the other goaltender,
Yeah.
and that goaltender is gonna win the Vezina, or as a Florida freaking analyst or podcaster say, Vezina.
No, we're not bringing that up.
But
But
I'm-
yeah, no, like, I think ultimately it just came down to the talent, and then the defense for sure. But outside of that, it was just the talent levels where
I know
massive
talent was a
difference.
massive gap. Their depth showed up in Chuskin and Lehkonen and all the other guys, Ross Colton, and then like they have 5-6 stud defensemen like McCarr, Taze, Gerard, Manson, Sean Walker, and Jack Johnson, right? Where all you have is like Morrissey as your top end defenseman. After that, really,
Logan Stanley.
like they're good. Don't get me wrong, as a collective, but like the individual talent is just not there, and
Yeah.
individual talent is definitely needed. And we just seen McKinnon take over. We seen McCarr take over,
Which is tough for doing hockey because there's shifts.
and we seen Chuskin take over as well. But yeah,
Let's-
overall disappointing for Winnipeg, and definitely some question
Winnipeg did
marks.
this last year, they won the game 1.
They
and
did,
then
yeah.
Looked terrible the rest of the way.
Yeah,
Last
no.
year this year more disappointing than last.
I don't know what's going to happen in Winnipeg, because now Hellebuck's locked up. I think Shifley's locked up as too. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But those guys have to step it up
Okay,
if they want to do anything.
let's move on to the East. I think 2 of them are going to be very quick. Rangers, Washington. The only analysis really is Washington dominated. The Rangers dominated. Washington did not dominate. A lot of that is Alexander Ovechkin. And Spencer Carberry said after the series that essentially this guy right here had to carry the load in the late in the regular season, which is why he ended up getting 30 goals, to prove your point correctly. Again,
He's
giving
the
you
greatest
props.
goal scorer ever, man.
But it's just like he probably was mentally and physically exhausted from just getting into the team in the playoffs. This was like when Kobe pretty much played so much that he tore his Achilles right before he put that team in the playoffs.
Yeah,
In that
essentially.
2013 year.
Yeah,
I think it was.
Ovechkin was tired. Ovechkin was a non-factor in the series. Another person you could say was also, that carried the Ovechkin load was Charlie Lindgren. And, you could tell he was exhausted because he had to play so much. And he was clearly the number 1 goalie in,
It sucks
in
'cause
that town.
like I said, like if we in hindsight I kind of expected this, which is why I was like, why couldn't Pittsburgh get in? Because I felt like Pittsburgh would have given a way better matchup.
We
especially
don't
with how
know.
they're going.
We don't know.
Who knows? I mean,
Who
I
knows?
would
Because at the end of the day, Washington was on a hot streak, right? The most dangerous teams are the teams coming in on hot
yeah, I
streaks.
know, and I get that, but I felt like personally, the way Pittsburgh was lined up, especially how they were hot later on in the season too. I just feel like also Washington had the worst like goal difference since 1990, whatever it was, 1991
To make the playoffs, yeah.
So I feel like Pittsburgh would have given up.
Yeah,
better.
I would.
That's just my personal opinion.
I would agree with that. I would
Right?
agree with that. But
People thought wanted Detroit in because they would just be like it's high powered hockey off straight offense, which is fair too. But yeah, like I paid zero attention to the series.
There is one little thing that we need to quickly mention.
Sure, I'll let you take it. Like I said, I paid zero attention to the series.
And this is with the Capitals.
Okay.
Is this the last time we see Ovechkin in the playoffs?
We thought that this year, so who knows, right?
Like,
listen, the minute he gets whatever he needs next year, he's done.
And
so
he's
to
gonna
answer your question, probably yes.
it's going to take him 2 years.
Because
I'll say that
I
much.
can't see Pittsburgh being the same next year. I don't know. That's just me.
But like when you look at it, right, Red Wings should be getting better.
You would hope Buffalo and
you would
Ottawa
hope
get better.
Buffalo and Ottawa get better. You would hope Devils get better.
Yeah, that's
Right.
the big one.
That's the big one, and I don't really see any other team falling off at the moment. And Washington,
Washington's the only one.
who's gonna take over, right? Like, we know who knows. Ovechkin could still pop off.
Yeah.
Right. He did pop off. At the end
Ovechkin
of the day.
needs to come into the season in shape.
If Ovechkin pops off next year, they'll have a full blown chance of
come
making
into
it.
the season in shape, and you don't have to do this.
But it just felt like this like what he did in this postseason. It just felt like just really shows you how undefeated Father Time is, right? And it's getting to him late as a 39-year-old,
Yeah.
right? So, but it will get to you at the end of the day.
Okay, I'm gonna be a little cocky here. Another series I was right about. Carolina.
Quick thought on Rangers.
Okay, sure.
Flat out dominance.
Yeah.
Artemi Panarin already has a better postseason than he did last year, where he recorded 0 goals. What's I was gonna say is, Igor Shesterkin did his thing. They all did the thing.
Yeah.
Number one guy, or number one X factor, Alexis Lafreniere, is kind of looking like the number one overall pick that we expected him. Showing shades of that.
He needs that to be, because they'll be taking on the Carolina Hurricanes, which I was right about again. I got 3 series right, I believe.
X factor is Lafreniere for sure.
Yeah. Carolina Hurricanes 4-1 over Islanders. Islanders only win came in Game 4 to avoid a sweep, which was in double overtime.
Yeah, I would have gone this series right if you didn't lose in overtime.
And
I said a Carolina sweep.
yeah, because Game 2 also wasn't that. Like,
Oh yeah,
what was more miraculous comeback, Game 2 Carolina or the Canucks in Game 4?
Canucks, because
Without being biased.
without being biased, like the Canucks legit looked like they're dead in the water,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't even funny, and the Carolina only had to come back from 1 goal. lead.
Only reason why I'm
Carolina
gonna
only
argue.
needed 1 goal, by the way, like to tie.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, quick
The only
comments
reason
on
why I'm saying Carolina is because they all.
Yeah.
I guess they won it in regulation.
yeah, that's true. Quick comment about Islanders. It's gonna be tough to win a series when Barzal gets his first goal in like Game 4, right?
And then Horvat struggled.
Horvat struggled. Obviously, the big factor is the Game 2, right? If that didn't happen and you won that game,
You had the
it was a 2-2 series.
You had the split early on too.
Yeah, it was a 2-2 series after 4 games, and you'll be going to Game 6 down right now. But yeah, no, Carolina just hit them quick. It was just these spurts, because Islander had their moments, right? Obviously in Game 2 we saw it in Game 4. We saw that they were able to compete against the Hurricanes in these moments. But then there's these moments where Carolina just takes over and scores 2 goals in 9 seconds, or in Game 5 where they scored 2 goals in another 10 seconds, I believe, to make it 4-3 and 5-3, and eventually they scored the empty
2
netter.
things on the Carolina side of things. 1, Freddie Anderson looks good.
That's a big
2,
factor, yeah.
this is why you trade Jake Gensel. This is why you trade for Jake Gensel.
Yeah, all 4 lines were just dominating for sure. Aho did his thing. Gensel did his thing. Kuznetsov as well. Like,
Yeah.
he had 2 goals and 2 assists in this series. 4 points and from your 4th line setter essentially. But yeah, Jake Gensel again, playoff performer. He's shown up. Him and Aho as a duo is gonna look nice. Svechnikov is back, right? Again, he was injured all of last postseason. It kind of feels like a trade acquisition in that sense. Marty Natchez is still there.
Jacob Slavin.
Obviously, your defense, you have Slavin, Burns, then you have Orlov, and you have Brady Shea and all these guys. And then obviously goalie-wise, Freddie Anderson answers their goalie's problems that they had during the season, which was when he was injured. So obviously he was the answer.
Yeah.
And
now, I did say Gensel. This is why you trade for Jake Gensel. I understand he didn't have the point production 1 goal and only 3 assists. But the leadership and the winning mentality.
He just knows what to do. He
Same
knows
thing
what to
with
do.
Kuznetsov.
But here's one thing: their MVP of the first round for me was Seth Jarvis because I think he had 4 goals and 3 assists.
Yeah.
And he, as a second liner, that was really good.
Yeah.
And he will be my X factor for that one. Like I said, Lafreniere, who's moved up to the second line, who plays with Panarin now.
Yeah.
Right, Jarvis and I think Savechnikov are together, I believe. So I think Jordan Stahl's centering that one.
Did you say Jordan Love?
Jordan Law. Jordan Stahl, I forgot the S, but and the T. Yeah, so I just believe that, it will be Jarvis, Lafreniere as X factors, and obviously goaltending as well, Freddie Anderson. If he's Freddie Anderson, the goaltending should be able to cancel each other out. But like we said, Dallas and Vegas are the heavyweight matchup.
This is gonna be.
We already got our heavyweight matchup in the second round. Rematch of 2 years ago, where Rangers won in 7 and absolutely dominated in Game 7. We'll see what happens this year. Carolina did well in defending home ice. Obviously, so did the Rangers because they only played 2 games and they swept.
Yeah.
At home ice, and yeah.
This is where the Jake Ansel test will truly come in.
Yeah, no, a lot of tests, right? Like Panarin, at the end of the day, you played Washington, so it's not really a good playoff performance so far in the sense of you haven't played anyone good. But other than that, it's a good start for both teams, and excited for this one.
All right, last one. Also ended 4-1. We said 7 games for this one. It felt like 7 games the first 2 games, especially. Game 5 was definitely a lot bigger than it should have been. It is the Florida Panthers beating the Tampa Bay Lightning 4-1. They slayed the Dragon, I guess you could say, especially being one Florida was the best team and got swept by them in the second round. Yeah, Tampa obviously dominated Game 4. It kind of let them come back into it, but then Steven Stamkos was like their best player in this series as well. Yeah, it's just Tampa's time has passed, I guess. Like the age is getting up there, but at the same time, a lot of their other guys are also at the age where they're kind of in their primes, right? Sergachev is still relatively young. Kucherov is older, I get that. But at the same time, you got like other pieces. Braden Point's still like 27, 28 years old. And you got all these other guys.
So, I know Kucherov had 7 assists, but he has 0 goals. Point obviously should have done better. Like we said in the NHL contender / underdog video, the only way Tampa Bay wins this series is if, Hedman, Kucherov, Point, Stamkos, and Vasilevsky, put on their best performances. And only 2 of those players did in the sense of Stamkos and Vasilevsky. I believe Kucherov should have been better. I do believe Point should have been better. And Hedman, I think, was decent. But overall, it just didn't look like, they were at their best. But even though, they still produced, Point had 5 points. And I think Kucherov had 7 assists.
Yeah, but at the same time, it didn't feel...
It didn't feel like they were dominating. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It definitely did feel like they were quiet, especially in games 1 and 2, especially Kucherov. But, Vasilevsky performed well. I was impressed by him. I was impressed by Stamkos, who had 5 goals in this series. But it just shows that, now the money is, being a factor, right? The cap is being a factor in the sense of, when you could do all this cap manipulation during your cup runs, it's going to hurt you in 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah, I mean, the payout is you got 2 cups, almost 3.
Yeah, and the payout is worth it, but now you just don't have the depth. And obviously, without Sergachev for the first 4 games, or first 3 games, it definitely did take a hit. With Sergachev, you did look much better. But overall, Florida has all 4 lines rolling. They were getting their goals from all 4 lines, essentially. Dumb defensively, again, were good. And Sergei Bobrovsky is Sergei Bobrovsky again.
Yeah, which is why...
He's a Vezina finalist.
This is my cup finalist.
And he's Sergei Bobrovsky. The
same reason why the same things I said for Carolina, which you put them in their cup final. For me, it's Florida. For that reason, I think they're just the bigger team. They're the experience from last year. They added some like Tarasenko.
Yeah.
And then you have Matthew Tkachuk is kind of playing a lot better than he did in the regular season, I would say. And it's not like he had a bad regular season, but compared to last year, obviously it was a little bit of a step back. But yeah, going back to Tampa, it's just, I don't know how you get younger. Is Steven Stamkos coming back? Are you going to pay him? Is he going to take a hometown discount and just try to win one couple more before he retires officially as well? That's what I think, I forget who it was, I forgot the other team. Skipping my head, but yeah, no, ultimately this was the thing, right? And
Yeah, they're in the playoffs next year again. Like,
I think they should be. We'll see what happens in the offseason, to be exact.
yeah, but I still think even without Stamkos, I think they
like you have
still
a
should
hard
be a wild card
finalist
team,
this year.
right? Like if Kucherov's doing what he did this year, they should be fine. And if they're
But
healthy,
even with him Kucherov doing that, they were like there was a little scary moments. Like
oh yeah, no, but like
it
you know,
wasn't- they were
health.
still
I also said
wild-card
health.
moments.
I also said health.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. Vasilevsky was out for the first 2 months.
yeah,
Sergachev was out for the last few months.
yeah.
Right. So those are big factors there. But yeah, overall, like it's seeming like Tampa Bay's time has passed as cup contenders, but they still make playoff pushes in the sense of fighting for a playoff
So,
spot, wild card spot.
The same thing that I said about Edmonton that they should be in the conference finals. I'm saying the same thing with Florida.
Yeah, I think they should.
I obviously I
It's
agree the
it's
Florida route will be a little bit harder.
It's
than
way
Edmonton's,
harder. It's way
But
harder.
I just think they should get in there.
It's way
The
harder.
way Boston is kind of looking vulnerable, and like their defense and centers are I think better than Boston's, and then Toronto's Toronto as well. I don't think they match up well at all, especially with the injuries if that's a factor. But yeah, this is the big thing here. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, so that wraps up our NHL playoff talk for the last 3 or 4 games for each series.
So we have 3 series left. We'll probably talk about them once
It's over.
they complete.
Yeah,
We'll see how the schedule goes about the second round, how
it
the
depends.
game 7 will affect.
If some games start early, we might need to start previewing half the series before
yeah.
and half the series after. But let's move on to some
Let's go quickly
quick
NBA.
block or
Quickly
NBA.
Quickly NBA.
Okay.
We have another series that has ended. We're not going to spend too much time on it. It's just Boston. They completed. They just handled business.
They
after
handled
that
business.
Game 2, they
No,
won 4-1,
nothing to say,
dominated every
yeah.
game. The only thing I really want to say about the Miami Heat is please take the regular season more seriously, because when an injury does happen, you don't have to run into this and have a chance at winning.
Yeah.
Right? Like, at least Milwaukee got an injuries. They kind of got the Pacers, which helped them out because they ended up winning Game 6. Right?
5.
That's, 5.
And might get the stars back for game
And
6.
yeah, so exactly my point here. That's all I got to say. Boston handled business. There was just one blip, and we'll see how that
they're
goes.
fine. That's done. Yeah, let's move on to boxing quickly.
That's the only one that finished, right?
Yeah, starting off with Canelo Alvarez fighting. How do you pronounce it? Munguia?
Yeah, Munhia.
Munguia?
He's Mexican. It's the first Mexican fight, really.
Yeah, so Canelo versus Munguia, and taking place this Saturday, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Saturday?
So, okay, sorry. I'm going to cut you off there. I'm going to go back to the NHL very quickly because there's some news that we have to actually mention. Now, Carolina is on the next round, but how much of this Brindamore news could be a distraction? Because
It's not.
Brindamore could leave Canes. Carolina head coach is reportedly unsure about future with team. Just
It's nothing, man. It just
I don't think Rod Brindamore is that type of guy. He'll keep the team in check.
they're fine. There's no distraction. There's no excuse, right? If this is an excuse, it's absolutely bullshit. And yeah, I don't want to hear it that any fan or any hockey or analyst saying that this could have been an excuse, because it's not going to be there.
Okay, it's not an excuse, but I'm saying it could be a factor. That's all I gotta say.
I don't believe that either.
I'm just saying it could be a distraction.
It's a different story, right? If like, it's like, yo, Brindamore, if this is your last chance and stuff, right?
Yeah.
This is like a personal decision, right? At the end of the day, you got to respect that as players, right? This is a personal thing. So it's none of your business. That's all I'm going to say.
Personal contract thing. But
It's none of your business. That's all I'm going to say.
yeah, okay. Like I said, was going back to the boxing.
Boxing, Canelo Munguia. I don't know much about Munguia, so I'm going to go Canelo. So
I
that's
gotta go with the prediction. But Canelo,
that's my reasoning.
Canelo's last fight, he looked very dangerous, and he seems like he's on the mission again after a couple fights that he won. Obviously, he lost the Bivol fight, so we'll see how that goes. But the story wasn't even dumb too. The story was the beef between Oscar De La Hoya, who is whose former, I guess Canelo's former promoter. It was Oscar De La Hoya with Golden Boy. Canelo has come out and said stuff about Oscar, saying like, the man stole my money, stole money from fights, and he's not a trustworthy man. That's why I left. I think that's why he joined Eddie Hearn. Oscar today rebutted, and this has been going on for a while because we know Canelo left. So those of you guys don't know, this is a little bit of drama. So they had the final press conference today, before all the weigh-ins and all that stuff, and essentially Oscar was reading a thing that he wrote down, like a piece. You know how some people have a statement, and he just like turned around to Canelo and said, "So put some fucking respect on my name, blah blah blah. You failed drug tests, all that stuff," and emphasis failed on drug tests for a second because we're gonna come back to that. And Canelo obviously started fighting back in Spanish, calling him the F slur. Not the F word, like the bad word, the F slur in Spanish, based on what the translation said. Started looking at Canelo or Canelo started looking at Oscar, saying like, "Did you pay Golovkin? Oh, you did. Good job. Congratulations. Thank you. If my lawyers did not get involved, you would have stole that money too. Blah blah blah." So it's a lot of personal shit with them. You kind of see it with Oscar and Ryan Garcia a little bit. I think they kind of squashed it a little.
But then speaking of
But
Garcia,
speaking of Garcia and the drugs and PEDs, because Oscar literally called out Canelo for being tested positive. Oscar's own fighter, Ryan Garcia, who had we thought was a miraculous victory over Devin Haney. Yes, he came in overweight, and I get that's a factor, so he wasn't professional that way, but still everybody thought he was going to get his ass kicked. He did not. The opposite happened. However, Ryan Garcia reportedly, according to journalist Dan Rafael, tested positive for Ostarine, a banned performance and banned PED drug, and 2 drug tests administered by the Voluntary Anti-Doping Association relating to his fight with Devin Haney. Urine tests from April 19, which is a day before the fight, and the 20th both returned positive for Ostarine. His April 19 test also came back positive for 19 norendrosterone, another banned PED pending further analysis. Ryan Garcia now has 10 days to request testing of his B sample, according to ESPN's Mike Coppinger. So we don't know how this affects the result of the fight, if he's going to pay more fines. Obviously, I would assume that's going to just be a no contest or a DQ win for Devin Haney. Ryan Garcia then comes out on Twitter, and kind of was joking around with the whole thing, saying like, "Oh, I should have checked what this was." I think he was trolling because he did come out and said it's fake news. He's still kind of like in this crazy era thing, like he was doing before the fight. So yeah, no, we'll see. He's denying, like he said, Golden Boy has come out and said they're they put out multiple statements denying knowingly using any banned substance, and we believe him. Listen, but before I let you go, I won't be surprised if he did it on purpose.
We don't know, man. That's just how it's.
I won't be surprised if he did it on purpose.
But yeah, that's that. I don't think it should be a DQ win for Haney just because Haney did lose, so it's probably a no contest. And it
just depends on like
another chapter in Ryan Garcia's book. We don't know what type of book it is. I'm still confused because he started off
especially recently.
But at the end of the day, what we saw in the ring was absolutely incredible. And as a fan, I'm not saying do drugs or anything. Don't get me wrong. Like, be professional and stuff. Don't get me like I'm saying that. But if it leads to like if he's gonna perform like this, obviously without the drugs, you just take it, right? At the end of the day, you gotta accept
again,
it.
the PEDs, I don't know what type these are. I think they help with the muscle, which means the damage he did was probably caused by that.
That's true. Yeah, the left hook was more nasty.
So which means you could have killed the guy.
Yeah.
Based on the PEDs.
But unprofessional, absolutely disgraceful if it is true, but we don't know yet just because it's a he said, she said type of thing.
Well, the testing said it's positive.
Yeah, but
so we have to see what
we have to see what it is right now. But right now it's a he said, she said to us, and we'll see how it is. Nobody's admitting what actually has happened, and so again, it'll be disgraceful. Definitely taint his win for sure, but.
Massively.
It just sucks.
The weight did it, but the PEDs will 100%.
Oh yeah, the PEDs 100%. The weight doesn't.
Yeah. So here's a last thing, very quickly, very very quick news. Champions League, or 2 things. Champions League, 2-2 first leg between Bayern and Real Madrid. Not too surprising because it was the Allianz, which means I think Madrid should dominate.
Honestly, Bayern should be disappointed they didn't get a win.
Exactly. And then the other side, Dortmund looked very good against PSG with a 1-0 win. And let's see what happens on the flip side. So far we look wrong. In a way, how the game's
not really.
Well, the PSG side we look wrong.
Not really, just because Dortmund was home.
Yeah.
And in the sense of but Jadon Sancho cooked. Nuno Mendes matchup did not look good for Nuno Mendes.
So
and then on the other side, Dortmund defended well, but PSG definitely should have been easily able to tie that game.
Yeah. So that next week we'll obviously recap it before whatever the final is gonna be. Very last thing. MLB brawl broke out, which was pretty fun. We have to talk about brawls, man. We have to. So we talked about boxing earlier. The punishments have come between the Brewers and the Rays, which is kind of hilarious because out of all the teams, rivals. Brewers reliever Abner Uribe was suspended 6 games. I think he's the one who threw that like mean jab or whatever he did. Freddie Peralta, right-hander, got 5 games, and manager Pat Murphy received 2 games, while Tampa Bay Rays outfielder Jose Siri was given 3 games for their part in the bench-clearing brawl. The league fined those guys an undisclosed amount. Supposedly, Kevin Cash said Siri's suspension was reduced to 2 contests following an appeal. So, yeah, fun time in baseball when you see a bench-clearing brawl, obviously.
Like an actual proper ball, though.
Yeah. None of that weird stuff.
Down goes Anderson.
Yeah, like that. The last thing, the Dodgers just got mightier and stronger. You don't know the news, or?
I honestly, I haven't played anything to MLB right now.
Walker Buehler to make first start since 2022, and that will happen on Monday.
Yeah. The rich get richer.
Exactly. So, yeah, we have to bring that up very quickly.
Yeah, no, but playoffs are on, so MLB, I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't been paying attention at all.
And I don't know what the hell the Jays are doing, but I know all I know is they suck. And so say bye-bye to playoffs at the current moment. But at the end of the day, it's only 1 month in, so we'll see what happens.
So, that being said, we appreciate you guys once again for watching. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on audio, make sure you guys download it, rate, and review it. We appreciate you guys as well. Make sure you guys check out the NBA recap of the playoffs so far. That was dropped in our last episode as well. Make sure you guys follow our socials, link down below. We're back to clipping some of the pod clips. We're going to start doing challenge videos when the playoffs kind of dwindle down a little bit to lesser teams, so stay tuned for that as well. And other than that, we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.